I don't have a voice, so I can only croak for about 5 minutes at a time.
That's not true. You can croak constantly, I'm sure.
I'll take Andrew's place though as the resident Christian expert to educate all you heathens about morality. So, what's this
Christianity
about
steals
stealing
valor.
valor?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Who's stealing valor there? Godless
Well,
heathen.
they're taking credit for something they didn't do.
I think he just kind of completely won this debate because like no one was fighting back. They didn't even try. They were just like, my feelings, but that wasn't a good argument. So they should have first pointed out that if we're talking about a collusion between religion and state, which is obviously a very, very bad idea, but anyways, let's enter that debate. Which Christian group gets to decide these rights that women have? And so that was a question none of them asked. Instead, they argued about rights and stuff.
So did you just
Mr. E, I was totally trying to get there, but it was just out of respect to everybody's time. I was trying to limit how far I was going into those, but I did see it, and I'm sure it could have been brought up. But yeah, we probably all do know the answer, maybe. But
what was the question? Do you remember the question?
It's the hypothetical breakfast question. How would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning?
Hungry.
But I had breakfast.
We're all hungry, Mr. E. That's the answer. So I would go with yes for tonight's debate. If anyone should be calling out women's rights, I would think Christians do it best. But Flo says we're stealing valor. So please elaborate on that idea, Mr. Flo State.
Well, Christians claim that without Christianity there would be no morality, but religious morality is reflective of something that is greater than morality. That holds true throughout all human societies.
There would be ethics, but it would be relativistic morality, as Andrew already explained 1,000 times to the panelists.
Morality is relativistic.
No,
including Christian morality, which is demonstrated by how many different denominations there are and how some adhere to the rules harsher than others, stronger than others.
Yeah, I noticed Blue Eyes brought that up tonight when she said that the one true church should have no failure. So apparently there are no humans who will be allowed to join this one true church.
Tomato, fierce and red, juicy curves,
this message is sponsored in part by...
That one was for John Smith and his special request. But to balance it out, here you go, gentlemen.
This message is sponsored in part by...
I feel like I owe
Yummy.
a lot of those tonight. Oh.
You sound like you have a headache.
I don't even know it. That was like, it just kept going. And it was like, if I can break it up, right? I know I can break it up. But the question is do I want to break it up? And then I felt bad because Fatty and Torch are just sitting there like fucking bored out of their minds, ready to stab their eyeballs with pencils.
Who was the other chick? Where'd you choose?
Torcia? Oh, Fairy Queen. She was referred in by Rezi. I think he's been on our panel before, but
not a lot of people have the same stamina as Andrew.
Yeah,
bless her heart, she tried.
She can certainly go. That and I wish they had brought it back around a little harder on the religious aspect for the promoting women's rights, because we kind of just kept veering off into the semantics of it all. And shout out to OPC Don for the 3 and all of the generous, severely generous donators tonight. There was a point where I thought I was going to cry. So thank you. Because you actually just went above and beyond, and I don't know if I want to cry or throw up. So either
Do
way,
both.
in a good way. In a good way. It
Do
broke
one,
me.
then the other, and then the first one again.
Oh,
And leave your mic
man.
on.
Oh God, the bucket's over there. It's good. Yeah, you'll hear it. Don't worry.
And
Yeah, I
move it
think
to members only.
How
think
much more
Fairy
money would
Quid,
it get to get you to do one or both of those things? You should set like tiers, like
probably double it. Yeah, like puke level.
right. I would think the crying level would be lower than the puke level.
Yeah, like a tear up kind of moment. Like get a, I don't know, choked up. But yeah, the Mod Mondays are always incredibly exhausting for me. Like I feel like I got hit by a bus the next day. But that's just because it's a lot of I don't know, like you're trying to listen, you're trying to read, and it's like high tension the whole time like that. And it like actually kind of stresses me out.
And when the audio's distorting because someone's
Oh,
very passionate.
It kept doing it, and I thought his mic was just turned up too high on his end, but it did every time he like Andrew would raise his voice, it would like pop in and out. But it could have just been me.
He was like, "That's your problem." I was
I
like,
know,
"Well,
I'm like, all
it's affecting
right.
my headphones too, so I guess it's an internet problem."
It is what it is. I mean, I didn't care that much. I was more worried about like if I'm hearing it that end, like then the viewers are too, and I don't want that for them. And farewell to Jack coming in with the 2. This is Moxie fault, yo. All right, Moxie, it's all your fault. Thank you, farewell.
So, Dawson, what is a woman?
A woman is a human.
And who should determine their rights?
This is interesting contextualizing because like I've been part of different spheres or different I just want to preface any answers I say. I started out kind of in like probably the dating sphere, and then I went to the music community, and then this is I went to general talk shows, and so this is kind of like a combination of a general talk show and a debate. So there's kind of like the debate community as well, and there's a few things I would probably preface before I voice more solid opinions about things. Well, one of them was like, it was like, if I give an opinion on something, I don't know how responsible I would be in accountability of being associated with expressing opinions on certain subjects.
Okay.
But
So do you
I
think
am curious
religion
on learning
should stay
more,
out
though.
of it, or do you think they should have a vote in it?
Well, I would kind of side. Well, again, like I want to preface that like I don't want to be associated with a certain saying yes or no, because truth is subjective, and I could change my mind sometimes. I'm
All
quite
right.
new to the debate community, and I am willing to be open to debates in the future. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't going to debate you. I was just curious about your view, but that's all right. If you're not comfortable sharing it, we'll save it for another time.
But I would be
So,
open to
go
debating
ahead.
if I should be debating,
Okay.
if that makes sense. 'Cause
Do
I'm
you think
quite new.
a secular government would do a better job, or a religious government? Which one do you think would be better at determining women's rights?
I think that the church and state should be separated.
That's
but
the
then
trick, isn't it?
Technically, that would make me a secularist if you're to go to the other extreme. There are morals, but somebody talked about morals, and then there could be morals without religious view. But I don't think anyone really mentioned. It's not the word egalitarianism; it's another word, altruism. Yes, I don't think people didn't mention altruism too much, and I think that could be the bridge between secularism and the religious governmental structures.
I think the biggest conflict was just the age-old objective versus subjective debate about each camp. So I think Andrew did a pretty good job of pointing out that the subjective groups weren't doing a very good job of convincing him that they would provide any quality sort of input to the conversation, which I think he did a pretty good job of illustrating.
Someone said that they got into semantics too much. I think that there was
definitely
more semantical. About half of it was probably semantical, and half of it was rather on track. Again, it is good to do that to a point where you can clarify different points that people have, and you can take separate roads to get back to the main road. But sometimes, depending on maybe the personality, the level of understanding, or experience in debating, that shortcut or a different road could take longer than the original path of questioning or logic.
Yeah, I think an hour is definitely too long to define the word rights. So I think they could have spent about 10 minutes on that one personally. But
yeah,
rights is what it is.
I would agree that rights are nothing, or not a thing.
It's whoever can enforce them. That's basically what it is.
It's a field.
You have the right to free will, and that's about it. After that, it's just death and taxes. That's the only rights you have as a human being.
Something that Andrew said that was just plainly false is that societies were at their most successful when they were at their most religious. And if we look at European history, that for one is just obviously false, right?
Yeah, I was waiting for the opponents to point out the obvious, but again, I think they were too busy getting steamrolled. So,
and on a smaller scale, we can look at things at like cults, right? Which is just smaller, more excessively religious people, and those generally turn out pretty poorly.
Many cults in the name of Christianity, mind you. Just because someone claims to be a Christian doesn't mean they're the good guys. So
only I'm
glad they touched on
really
that.
A Christian.
That's what I was hoping they were going to get more into, but it seems like there was too much secular versus religious.
And I think that's where
that's
where the seculars fuck up is they just choose the wrong things and the wrong arguments to support. They get too in the weeds.
Andrew was correct that by default, most secular people they borrow Christian morality and then claim it like they just thought of it on their own or something like that. Like we can just naturally figure that out.
No, that's false. Morality is morality. Yeah. Morality are the laws within that govern human interactions that create a stronger society, right? That has nothing to do with Christianity. And actually, Christianity.
Where does morality come from?
Where does anything?
Are you born with it?
Where does anything come from? Where does sex drive?
Depends on the question.
Where does your sex drive come from?
People come from mamas and dadas.
Huh?
Babies come from mamas and dadas.
Right, but your sex drive, right? If you would have that, whether or not the Bible told you to go forth and be fruitful or whatever.
So, is it moral to take a woman by force and have sex that way, or by her consent? Which one is more moral, and why?
Never mind. Let me not say that.
I think moral. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It is immoral because it violates her free will. And before,
but if her free will is trying to resist baby production, isn't that bad?
Was to resist baby production? No, that's her right to do.
No, but if she's resisting, if she's saying I'm not in the mood or whatever, I've got a headache, she's preventing babies from being created. So,
which actually is a good argument for why religions obscure morality. Because there's Bible verses that say to go forth and multiply. So technically, she could be violating God's commands by not having sex. Whereas if you understand it as sort of the rules that govern human interaction to create stronger societies, then you recognize that she is entitled to not have her will violated.
Okay, on the subject of reproduction, nature teaches us that harems are quite productive. Is that the best choice of?
Hold on. Let me answer John Wayne's question first. What makes free will the end all be all? It's basically about negative rights. Because if we get everybody together and we say, okay, what is it that we want in a society, right? Positive rights like free healthcare or whatever. People will never agree with that. But everybody on Earth can agree that they don't want their free will violated by somebody else. They don't want to be coerced. And the minute that they disagree with that, they still agree with it by definition.
Also, it's the only universal right that all humans can agree to is that we have free will. That's it. After that, it's everything's up for grabs. And death and taxes. That's one guarantee you have in life. You will be taxed and you will die. So you have those two rights as a human being.
But wouldn't morals be based off of a social norm that happens over time? Like different tribes would have maybe a social norm that happens, and that somehow they just agree that a action or said action would be a quote unquote immorals. So they would have to invent the notion of moral in the first place. And
True
then
morality isn't arbitrary.
But that's what makes it relative, Dawson. That's why it depends on which culture you're talking about, at which time, and whose opinions are in the room.
No, that's not true. Like
that's completely true. That's exactly what makes it relative.
Immoral throughout all of society.
That's why it's subjective, Flow State, because it depends on who's in the room, their opinions, and how big their guns are. That's what determines
that change under
the
Christianity.
ethics of the day.
Actually, Christianity, if you want to get right down to it, Christianity gives you an open door to have no morals. Specifically, Christianity is the most
gives you the door to know what morals are.
How do you get in heaven?
You can't guess it on your own.
How do you get?
You can't vote on it.
You can. You automatically know it. Everybody knows. Everybody knows.
And you also can't derive it through the scientific process because nature won't ever tell you what morality is. You can feel like you're on the right path, but you can't get the answer. Like I can do a scientific study to show that, monogamous cultures produce the most stable relationships or whatever, but that won't give you the answer. Nature won't tell you this is the holy best answer. That's just your data for that day.
You're leaning back on my feelings then.
Exactly. It's the feelings of the scientists who say, I feel like this culture is the most productive, therefore it's the best one.
What about symbiotic relationships, such as between sharks and the little things that go alongside it, and they kind of have a symbiotic relationship between
what about them?
The shark.
Do the sharks feel like that symbiotic?
Well, the sharks will feel more clean.
Sharks and their parasites don't have morality at play.
They don't care about whether or not they feel violated or not.
Yeah, they're animals.
There's not really a moral, ethical issue.
If you get ringworm because you're a wrestler, there's no moral component to that. It just is what it is.
Also, I come from the camp that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Could it be because that's an animal species? We are a mammal, therefore, that the symbiotic relationship can apply between humans, and then the symbiotic relationship can be defined as moral in a sense. That people could help other people, and that morals are defined by which people help each other.
Morals are sort of like there's the laws of nature. Morality are the laws of human interaction. And
got it. Okay, thank you.
There's a mechanical reason why you would have them under this definition, right? Because no matter who you are or what language you speak or whether you wear kilts or pants, if you can't trust somebody not to steal from you, for instance, then your society is going to be weakened because you're too busy fighting internally than focusing on expanding externally. And so things like stealing, lying, cheating, murdering, PDF stuff, all these things are universally immoral, and it's not dependent upon religious doctrine.
Time out. Sorry, you're saying it's universally moral, meaning without religious doctrine, those things are just known?
Yes.
Okay, I would disagree there. Did you ever watch Andrew Wilson's debate with Matt Dillahunty. Well, quote unquote debate because he left. Okay.
I mean, I've seen that clip, but I didn't watch
that clip directly answers every single objection you have here right now.
How?
And I can give you a very brief summary if you're okay with it, because it was the idea of Christian ethics versus secular humanism. It sounds like what you're arguing on is the secular humanism part, where you're saying that you have the morals and the logic and such outside of religion. Is that correct?
Correct. People do have it, and we can prove that scientifically, right? You can look at little kids, little babies, and have enough empathy to understand pain, right?
Sure.
And we've studied this. That's not a learned thing.
Do they all have the same?
It's entailed by you granting yourself logic, reason, and this entire worldview. You're just granting yourself that, which is an entailment of religion. But
Logic
you're giving
and reason?
you're giving yourself those things based off of religion, and then cutting religion out of it.
No, absolutely. You think logic and reason are dependent upon religion? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
How the fuck do you get there?
Because if you start looking back, first of all, let's just presuppose God is the one who created logic and reason. This is how we get to where we are now. Now, let's cut him out, but we still have logic and reason, and we start logically reasoning our way back. Where would we find ourselves?
Is it logical to think that since we can't explain it, it has to be God? We don't know where logic and reason came from or why we're able to use it.
Regardless, where does...
Allow me to just do a quick voice confirm. Andy, is that you, my darling?
Yep, that's me.
We're not going to show anything obscene on screen or anything like that.
I can put my face on if you want.
Oh, you're good. You're totally okay in avatar mode if that's what you choose.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter.
I'd really like to see his face, actually.
Oh, he's actually not that bad looking. He's very handsome. All right.
Welcome.
Man, put your avatar back on. That's fucked up.
You can't make us all look bad like that.
I'm messing with you. But yeah. I mean, there's nothing to... It's a theory that you have to have God to have thought, but that actually is a product of thought.
No, but if you have to have God in order to have morality, because human secularism or secular humanism, whichever way you want to word that, morality is, in essence, meaningless, means absolutely nothing without religion and God. There is no morality.
How do you... I just gave it an alternative for what God's morality is.
So if you, I'm pretty sure Andrew can explain this a lot. And again, there's a lot I disagree with Andrew.
I'll point it out, Flo. Earlier you said universal. It's not universal that all humans agree on what morality is, and there's where your argument fails.
Not all cultures will uphold what is universal human morality, and not just because you know something is wrong doesn't mean you won't do it. We do it all the time.
But so in this debate, if you watched it, which wasn't really a debate because Matt Dillahunty ran away, and again, like I said, there's much I disagree with Andrew on. But what he was saying was, even if I grant your entire worldview, which Flow State sounds like you kind of side with Matt Dillahunty's worldview on this, but he said, even if I grant your entire worldview, you are still granting yourself logic, reason, and the entire worldview, which gives you an unjustified starting point. But even if I give that to you, then granting that, even if God isn't real at all, people acting as though he is still superior to whatever worldview you are now granting yourself, because human flourishing is now meaningless under your worldview. And in that sense, he then moved on talking about what is human flourishing.
Why wouldn't Matt Dillahunty charge off on that?
But who gets to decide the metric of what human flourishing is? For example, right now, currently, lying about sex and gender means that it's human flourishing. However, if you try to use this as a metric to see what is human flourishing, which means we're propagating the population, then no, lying about sex and gender is not human flourishing, even though that's what your worldview would grant.
Human flourishing is expansive.
Right.
I don't know Matt Dillahunty's worldview.
On that point, then, that it's expansive, but then at what point is it expansive? Because he went further and then said Western civilization right now we cannot replace our own population with our own reproduction because we're not reproducing at a rate to replace it. So instead, we have to import people and a population from whom? Theistic nations, God-fearing
Like
nations
China?
who actually are reproducing themselves. So even in your worldview,
Okay.
where you're saying
Are
human
you-
flourishing is the best thing and they can't flourish, now we have to import people from God-fearing nations. So like from Andrew's argument, this is not my
No,
argument.
no. Give me your argument, because I'm not Delahunty and you're not Andrew.
Sure. But he made a great argument and I agree with it. It made a lot of sense. It was logical.
Hey Flo, let me give it a stab. So let's go back to your logic problem. Let's try to see if we can do logic without God. So I think you're pretty good on math. So like we don't need God to prove that 1 + 1 = 2, right? We can figure that out on our own. Good so far?
Yep.
Okay, so now let's ask a slightly more difficult question. Is murder good or evil? Now, is that like a math question that we can use nature and science to figure out, or is that something you're going to have to like convince me that you feel like there's an answer to that question?
There's a yes, you can demonstrate it mathematically. There's mathematical base type logic underlying it. Is it going to be 100% true for every single situation you can conceive? No, but neither is the Christian commandments, right? And
so is murder universally good or bad, or is it situationally
the unjustified
relative?
Killing of another is not good. That is
justified according to who?
Did you not hear my explanation of? You're asking me to default to an authority, right? Which you know is a logical fallacy. And what I'm telling you is, if we understand morality as an internally consistent system to govern human behavior, so that we have healthy, strong societies. If we understand it that way, then yes, it is mathematical. The answer
so if you want to reach the status of
that justified according to everyone else, that's what you would have. What you would have to appeal to is justified by everyone else.
No,
so there is no justification there. Justification doesn't exist then in your worldview.
It's not dependent. It's not dependent upon people agreeing. This is not.
And what is justified? Name something that is justified and why.
What do you mean name something that's justified? That's such an open, like smoking the cigarette is justified.
How is it justified? By whom? Who is
you don't have to. By your own desire to, in fact, that it doesn't violate another person's free will.
Okay, so you, by your own desires, get to justify everything you want to do. And how is that morality?
No,
then?
that's no.
Now you're
there's a free will component that you have to respect in others, right?
Right, but there's also justification which regards others.
Not necessarily.
Not everything needs to be justified.
We disregard people's free will all the time, Flo, and we do it justified and morally.
What do you mean?
Justified by whom? Again, that question.
So, for example, some people like to cause harm, and we put them in prisons against their free will, and we maintain the high moral ground.
And we do it because we respect the free will that they were violating in others.
And that was
we're not respecting their free will,
right? No, because we're expecting greater free will. They're violating free will, so we violate theirs in order to protect those of others.
Violating free will according to whom? Who justified that?
Nobody needs to justify certain things.
Okay, so we just imprison whoever we want.
We justify it ourselves.
Okay, so we've all justified it. So there was
everybody on Earth agrees that they don't want their free will justified. Do you agree? Or violated, I mean.
Yes, but when it is necessary, is it still not needed to be justified? For example, the person who is being imprisoned must be able to say, yeah, this was kind of justified. I did a thing I shouldn't have done. Everyone agreed.
I don't even know if that's a good principle to agree to. Certainly we agree with our free will. We often go after things that we ought not, right?
That's why I'm trying to show the insanity of that argument.
No, but we don't want other people to violate our free will. We can agree with that as if society came together and we were choosing rules from scratch.
I don't think that's true either, though, right? I think take the
you
Christian
want to be able to come in and say, "Hey, bud, it's late. We're taking your computer. You need to go to bed. You should have been in bed half an hour ago."
Take the Christian example. Augustine says this in his Confessions as well, right? He wants God to change his heart. which is to violate his free will because his desire is for something else.
That's blasphemous.
It's not blasphemous.
God created him the way he was. God made that decision. God said it.
What if your free will is making bad decisions, Flo?
You got to make a
Don't you
distinction
want
between
someone smarter to watch over you?
No, not at all. I don't think.
What
I
if-
don't
what
think
if-
there
what
is
if in-
anybody who knows better what's good for me than I do. They're not living my life. They're not in my
Whoa!
shoes.
What if in your old age you gain dementia and you start making really bad decisions of your own free will for yourself? And don't you want someone smarter and a better
In that
idea
case-
to take care
In
of you?
that case, I would not have the capacity to act with proper.
There
free
you
will.
go. You just
Even if
violated
that's
your
not
universal
correct.
knowledge.
Even if
Okay,
you are at
then-
full
then if we
capacity,
can
would
just-
you not want to make better decisions even against your own free will? Like,
It
would
is
you
a
not
bad
say, I'm giving
decision.
it up?
No. I don't want anybody. No, none of us want. And despite what you may say or what Augustine says, none of us actually want somebody else to have the authority to come make our decisions for us.
I do.
Isn't that
do.
why we
do
form
want that.
governments?
We didn't. I haven't formed any governments. I just showed up.
That's
and there
why we
was
enter
one.
into social contracts and things, surely, right?
I do, and I'm a libertarian. So put that in your pipe.
We
and
enter into
smoke it.
we enter into contracts voluntarily. We adopt social contracts and governments. So I would say that
Not
no.
everybody, even according to your existential freedom model that you're giving us, like on De Beauvoir and Sartre's model, we don't enter freely into any into existence, even, right? There's a violation of free will just by
Right.
existing.
But you're zooming way the fuck out, right? I'm not saying that we have to have
Your
absolute
principle. I'm
free
just
will.
dealing with your main
Hey, let me finish the
principle.
whole fucking thought. Like, yes, we don't get a decision whether or not we're here. We don't get a decision whether or not we fall when we step off our roof. That's not what I'm talking about. Within the paradigm of morality, as I described it, it's a societal structure. If you want to have an internally strong society, you have to abide by these certain things, and that is not violating the free will of your neighbor.
And I have the free will of interrupting with Milk Cow, bringing in the $2.99 super sticker. Thank you, Milk Cow.
Moo.
Moo.
Flow State, are you? Again, I don't know where you're coming from, but are you coming from a secular humanism standpoint? Is that, or
I don't
where are
even
you
know
coming
what.
from? I guess.
Yeah, I don't even actually know what that means. I'm just coming from
He's,
my own.
he's
world.
ex-religious. Just moving on. He used to be religious, not anymore.
I was raised in a casually religious household, like church once a
Right.
month or that sort of thing. I went to Catholic high school. I understand religion. I've never been particularly religious.
Right. Then I would just say watch that video from Andrew Wilson, because he addresses this pretty definitively, where he says he grants you all of your points. And he says, even if I grant you all of this and God isn't real, let's just assume he's not real. So this is not a religious topic anymore. Let me grant you all of this. However, then, using the rest of the evidence, is it still not better that people exist and behave as if God was real, and human flourishing was not the end all be all? And wouldn't human flourishing even still then, using pretending like God's real, would it still not be better? And his whole argument was, even if you were right, would my approach to this still not be a better result for even your argument? My side is still promoting a better result, even if your side was right. I have a better result for you. That was his argument.
That argument is not based in logic or experience. It's projection and insanely speculative. It
It also
okay,
depends on which
It also
religion.
assumes a lot of
Theoretically.
things. There's a standardized Christian morality, right? When we can see that it's been wildly different depending on where and when you are.
That's why that's why he skipped that. He skipped that entire part, and he just said, granting all of your views is
Right.
not my view still going to produce
What
a
is
better
his
outcome,
view?
even in your view.
What is his view?
Well, so
I don't know what his views
his-
are because I
his
haven't
view-
seen that.
His view, yeah. So I would just say, watch it. It's actually very interesting to watch.
I mean,
because-
I will watch it, and I appreciate the recommendation, but I
Yeah.
just continuing to default down on refer back to that in your discussion here seems sort of like, come on, man, what are your thoughts? What do you like?
Oh, well, I mean, my thoughts are very similar. if I was trying to argue with you in order to win the audience, I would approach it the very same way. I would say, okay, Flow State, I'm going to grant you everything that you have just said, and yet the results of a religious belief is still better for even your own case than your case is going to produce.
Like under the Taliban.
No, from like well, you said you're not secular humanist, but if you're coming at it,
That's why it depends on which religion
Right.
you're referring to.
I
John.
don't know what
Right,
secular
right.
humanism
Yeah, you're right.
means, really. Like, I understand that there's a definition. That, you know, I don't know what it means when you say that. This is just tailored.
I think he meant to say that in his theoretical, he is including the possible Christian religion, even if without the existence of God, but with the religion, the idea being taught as Christians understand it.
Yeah, if you pretended, the results would be better for both of us, no matter what. That was the logical conclusion to that.
And based on what? How is that the logical conclusion?
Because humans would have an idea of morality, that it's wrong to kill and lie and steal, which they couldn't derive on their own.
Or, for example, if you went to the extreme, it would be, okay, we pretend that men can have babies, except that is a genetic dead end, and so humans cannot flourish because in order for humans to flourish, there must be humans.
Right. Well, then that's why I'm not a secular
humanist is by not facilitating that lie.
Right. So the whole that if secular humanism says that men can have babies, like that's not my perspective, and I think that that's something I've encountered a lot. Is that Christians try to force me into beliefs that I don't have, which is the super progressive shit.
Can I just ask what you mean by internal coherence that you're talking about?
Me?
Yeah.
Because morality is, how did I use it? Do you recall how I used it?
Oh,
universally natural is what you said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's there's no self contradictions within the definition or the use of it. Of morality in my paradigm.
Yeah. You also tried to argue that it's based on free will and not violating someone's free will, but you also backtracked on that.
It's based on respect for free will, and so that means that if you have to address somebody who is routinely violating the free will of others, you have to do it, even though it will be.
Hey, Flow State, has your morality ever changed?
Yes, it has.
Okay, so if I gave you a time machine, would you ever go back in time and violate your own free will and tell yourself not to do something because your opinion changed as you grew in life and learned different things?
No, I wouldn't, because I don't think that. Because if I had not had the option to make my own mistakes and learn my own lessons, I wouldn't have any morality at all. I would just be subject to.
But it's you, Flow State, your future self that's talking to your history self, saying, "I already learned the mistake for you."
Are you kidding? I don't listen to my past self. I have to learn my mistakes 3 or 4.
That's why you can't evolve.
Yeah.
I can't evolve. You can't evolve because your rules are. It's a book. You have an idol. You have an idol that you follow. That's idol worship.
What you said there was interesting. You said, from your mistakes, you have morality, and that's what I'm trying to grasp. So
no, I didn't say that.
Internal coherence.
That's not what. That's not what I said.
It is what you said, but what do you mean? What did you mean?
No, I said I don't learn from my own mistakes.
Yeah, you said if I didn't learn from my own mistakes, I wouldn't have morality. What did you mean?
No, I didn't. I didn't say that, and I wasn't. And you can't extrapolate it there.
He was just joking. He's saying he didn't learn from his own mistakes.
Sci-fi's paradigm.
Okay, so then going back, I'm just curious. The internal coherence thing is interesting to me. It's not that I disagree. Like, I don't think there should be contradictions in a moral system. But how does that apply with? How does that work with free will?
That's where the rules start.
And the universal you're talking about.
Well, by universal, what I mean is that it's the same for all human societies. These the mechanics of human interaction within a society are the same regardless of culture.
So you're saying you're basing it on just the same human nature to that all humans have.
Right, Andy's
like a human perspective.
Let's say what kind of perspective?
So like a David Humean, like
I don't know any of these people that you're referring to. Okay. I mean, like I've read him, know who he is, but
he's a philosopher who just has a system that sounds similar. So I'm trying to figure out what exactly you're meaning by that.
No, if you're trying to like find a way to categorize me into an ethical argument, pigeonhole, it's going to be hard because I'm not
It's okay. Yeah.
studied in that realm.
Yeah, not trying to pigeonhole, but trying to figure out logically where you're coming from. Then,
Okay, Flo, let's go back to the universal thing. So, you would agree that all humans, no matter what culture, time period they come from, could all arrive at the 1 + 1 = 2 thing, right? We all humans agree on that. That's
we
easy.
can all agree that stealing is not something we like. We don't.
Okay, so can you name a single virtue that all humans would agree on is a moral universal constant throughout all time and culture?
Why don't I answer that by giving a simple example, not like a single word, but like stealing. Nobody wants to be stolen from.
Sure, except that other cultures that I know of that I'm not going to name.
You can't name one where people want to be stolen from.
I can name one because
pirates.
They don't consider it stealing because they consider it already theirs. You're just holding on to it. We would consider it stealing, but they're saying no. You're holding.
Who?
I don't.
The government.
I mean, type it in the back. Can you type it in the back?
I'm gonna type it in private chat. But this is the this is their mentality when they do this thing.
Well, without knowing the specifics, I'm going to say I'm going to assume that is an immorality that they have culturally just overlooked, right? Like,
but they don't think it's immoral. To them, it's moral. You're just holding on to their money.
That's not. Well, first of all, maybe it depends on how you look at it. So
but then, so then morals are not universal.
Society, hold on, within a society, right? So if you look at it as if I'm part of that society, and you're harming somebody outside of the society, right? Are you expanding your group at the expense of another? You could make the argument that is moral still.
Right. But also, so let's also look at this from Eastern Western type of idea. This is a lot more beneficial because we don't have to target anyone.
Western for the audience's sake, let me just say, he's talking about foreign people scamming Americans.
Right, but let's look at this Western Eastern. Western is if you went against the written rule, it's wrong. In Eastern culture, it's about honor. If you got caught going against the rule, now it's wrong. If you didn't get caught, then you're fine. You can go against the rule as much as you want, as long as you don't get caught, because it's about honor. That is Eastern Western difference.
I don't think that's accurate at all.
Dude,
I got a Western one for you, Flo. How about Vikings?
This is how they teach it. This is exactly the cultures that they have.
And also, I will say that as far as the mechanics of something go, Eastern is technically right as far as repercussions.
I got a Western one for you, Flo. How about Vikings? Do they steal?
The moral would be stealing is wrong. It's not the moral is if you got caught stealing, then it's wrong. No, it's just
if you get
active is wrong.
I don't know. I have never heard that is Eastern morality.
That is Eastern morality. Look it up.
Can you? And I hate to be the guy, but can you? Well, honor. What? That's not honor. You don't think that honor has an internal basis?
No, I'm saying in the Eastern cultures, honor is more important than following the letter of the law. It's if you got caught, now you are shamed, versus if you did the thing, you ought to be ashamed of yourself because you don't
think that Western is honor based or shame based?
No, Western is very letter of the law. Western is
massively shame based, and it has the user internalize the shame.
Sure, but in Eastern cultures, they don't internalize any shame unless they.
I don't believe that that's true. I don't think that's true.
Well, then look it up. Go talk to.
No, you look it up. You're the one making the claim.
I am making the claim because I'm half Asian, and I went to Korea, and I went and visited all my family, and we all talked about all this.
How long were you in Korea?
I was there for 2 months.
And in
my
that
mom
time,
was from there. She talks about this. I mean, this is the entire. She told me about how she had to change her state of mind because it was so.
Your family? Are your parents Christian?
Yes.
Okay, so you're raised in a Christian family, and you're talking to Christian people in an Asian culture.
My mom wasn't always Christian though. She became Christian, but before that, it's very.
We've got another Christian who's now saying that morality comes from Christianity.
Well, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and I can point to different things. For example, how the West and East have different measures for morality. And
I don't believe that you're accurate in that, but we can demonstrate how
Why
See,
is being
you're
caught
treating
more
morality like it's a
important than the act
culture
of
thing, but it's not. That's what I'm telling you.
And
It's
I'm
not.
telling you, in Eastern culture, it is. It is the
Okay,
thing.
but that's because you're still treating it as cultural.
Well, right. Well, I'm just trying to show you the differences.
Being able to trust your neighbor is useful, regardless of religion.
I'm trying to show you the differences because you're saying it's universal. Stealing was a universal thing, and I'm saying no, it wasn't. Getting caught stealing was something in one culture.
So if you're trying not to get caught, isn't that a disincentive to steal?
Then just be a good thief.
They still want to steal, but their incentive is to not get caught. They think stealing's okay as long as you don't get caught.
First of all, I'm going to say again that I don't believe you. I don't think I don't think that what you're saying is accurate at all about Eastern religion. Or Eastern culture. That said, nobody wants to be stolen from, and both moral systems discourage the act of stealing.
Right.
My question is,
however, you're incorrect, is what I'm saying. In Eastern cultures,
we're deadlocked here.
Culture,
you can repeat
it. Wrong.
It's the act of getting caught that is the shameful part. It's
crazy
wrong part.
how broad and sweeping that generalization is. Go ahead, Andy.
No, I mean, I kind of agree with what Flo is saying here. I don't see why we can't grant that nobody wants to be stolen from, but I just don't see how that is something different than a Christian, internally coherent Christian system. Like, I don't see what you're adding that the Christian system can't handle there.
Who?
I was simply saying that the act of stealing is not universal because we have a divide between the West and the East.
I don't think he's saying the act
between honor and law.
I think he's saying that the desire, it's like, think of like a deontological approach, right? Kant wants to establish a moral system that's grounded in rational principles, but those rational principles uncover a universal, right? And so we can apply that universal to everybody. So for him, it's something like the golden rule. So if I don't want to be stolen from, I need to be able to universalize that to make it a universal principle.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's very similar to what Jesus says, right? As the golden rule in scripture. But I think that fits well in a Christian ethic, actually.
Right. So I watched this interview with an Indian scammer, and he was asking, why do you think it's okay to do this? And he said, well, that's my money. This old lady's just holding on to it for me. If I get caught, it's bad. If I don't get caught, it's mine, and I have no shame. But if I get caught, and then in the same thing, there was other videos about this. It was talking about the differences between an American, right? Oh, you go up for a refill of your drink, and you know it's not free. You know it's 30 cents, but you're just going to refill your drink. You feel bad already. But someone from an Eastern culture goes up, and he's like, I'm just going to fill up. I'm going to fill up my cup as well as my friend's cup, as well as this giant 5-gallon jug. And if I don't get caught, then it's okay, and it's not stealing because I was not shamed for being caught.
Yeah.
That's literally the morals that are taught.
You're reducing it to cultural differences, and I'm saying that in all
proves my
situations,
point. That proves my point. That stealing is not
all of the paradigms in all situations, the moral structure disincentivizes stealing, and the person stolen from is not happy about it.
No, it disincentivizes getting caught.
The person stolen from is not happy about it. Right. Well, you're less likely to get caught if you don't do the thing. You can't get caught.
Well, right, but still, it's not the act that is shameful. It's getting caught that is shameful in Eastern culture.
All of them are pointing to the same universal moral reality, which is that nobody wants to be stolen from, and that if you do get stolen from by your neighbors, you don't trust them.
But that's the thing, is that those Eastern cultures say, oh, if you could have stolen it from me, then it must have belonged to you and not to me in the first place because I didn't hold it. That's the morals that they have.
Eastern cultures say, I would be fine with someone stealing from me as long as I don't catch them.
No, they're saying if someone stole from me and I didn't catch them, then it belonged to them. Because on the flip side,
and they're okay with that. I think that's moral.
Because on the flip side, as I said, was if I can steal it from them, it was already mine. They just held on to it.
But these are just mental games.
Yeah, that's what they do. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying there's a difference, and it proves that there is no universal thing about stealing.
Yep.
The mental difference is in just how the narrative you give to yourself, the mechanics underlying it, and the reaction the victim has to being stolen from are the same. The consequences on societal unity are the same.
They're not, though.
Well, I would just say that the moral principle there is still being held something to the effect of love your neighbor. If they don't get caught,
Right.
it's still considered loving your neighbor, right?
Also,
Right, but that's a
it's
Christian moral.
circumstantial. It eliminates
There's
the
slight
universal
variations
quality.
on the same moral. The same moral is don't steal. They're just differences in expression. I would say that
So my
the
my
Eastern
issue
one
then
has-
is
if-
No, you're
as-
saying don't steal. They're saying don't get caught stealing.
and
it's
what's the
different.
best way to not get caught stealing?
It's different. It's
What's the best way to
different.
not get caught stealing?
Steal at night and wear black.
Don't steal at all is the obvious
I'm
answer.
saying it's
Hey,
different
Flow
because-
State,
What
I
would
have
you
a
teach
question
your
for
kid?
you. Since
Would you
it's
teach your kid
hold on,
don't steal or
see if
don't-
Flow
don't
State
get
can answer
caught.
this question. Flow State, if it's universally wrong to steal, is it okay if I steal from someone to feed my starving child?
Yes.
Yes, because the higher principle is your starving child.
was gotta be
Absolutely.
like-
I've already destroyed your morality,
Yeah,
Flow
that
State.
is-
All it took was
I
one
cannot
question.
believe that you brought this into the thing.
I
You're-
know, because
this
I
one
always
is
destroy your
perfectly
morality
illustrated
every
why-
time you present it to me.
This perfectly illustrates why religion fucks morality, because people adhere to this book that is inflexible to reflect all the paradigms of life. And if you think it's more moral to let your kids starve to death than it is to steal food from a neighbor, you're fucked. That's actually fucked.
No, the Christian position is based on human value. So the Christian would steal. The difference is there's forgiveness on the Christian system. So
And
the
also,
Christian can still-
I-Fi,
but still-
there was this exact example was demonstrated to. Sorry, go ahead, man.
Thank
No,
you.
I would-
He was talking to me. Locksmith Jeremy comes in with the $5. Is it
Am I back?
okay?
Y'all kind of loop for a second.
Oh, I think that's you. Hold
the
on.
Exact,
you not
this
hear me?
exact example, somebody pulled out a Bible verse.
Flow.
last time we argued it.
Flo, Sarah's talking.
I thought it was me. I was like, is my mic not working?
I could hear you. I don't know if he can hear you or not.
He doesn't want to hear me. That's the problem. Locksmith coming in with the big 5. Is it okay for the Catholic priest to steal innocent boys' virginity? Isn't that a big ass moral sin? Not to mention that word, acts from the church. Where's the morality?
this is why we don't
It's
say
in
that
the
the
book.
morality
Read Aquinas.
is in the
High five.
particular.
Last time we argued this point as well, somebody
You
in the
lost.
chat gave a Bible verse in which they demonstrated even according to Christianity, you should steal from your neighbor to feed your kid.
You,
So
you
you're
can
wrong
make
in both
Bible verses
systems.
say anything you want to if you don't read it in
That's
context.
exactly the fucking problem, dude.
I know.
Well, okay,
we
so-
need people
so-
that know how to read.
So
Word.
Proverbs
That's
Proverbs
literacy.
6:30 says, "Do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his hunger while he is starving." So in Christian morals, there you go. It's already there.
So I-Fi sucks in every paradigm.
Well,
Though I agree with
for
John with most of
conservatarian.
his points, I think eventually the ramifications of the stealing will go outside of the collective culture to either the Eastern to the Western culture. The Western culture might find a way to punish them for the stealing in the first place, and then there will be a cycle. So eventually, that the stealing will be caught, either if it's that specific person, or we could be speaking in a generational context in terms of maybe what is stolen, and then that I can probably agree with more Flow State was saying about that, about the morality of that. Therefore, stealing is immoral.
except I just proved that he's wrong because all you have to do is find one exception to the rule, and then you can just use that exception every time.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then you could find exceptions. Okay.
Every time. I can find exceptions to
There are
any
exceptions to the
example
rule.
he gives me.
There are
So therefore,
exceptions
there's
to the
no
rule.
universal code that he lives by. It's just completely circumstantial on
And
the
that's
feelings
what I
of
was
that
trying
day.
to prove. That's what I was trying to prove. There's no universal code. In fact, if you just Google the way the East and the West think differently, just look at that, watch the videos, look at the interviews, you will find out everything that I was saying. The East and the West think differently because one is honor based and one is law based. So, like, it's a very real thing about how we think differently.
I do think that the Christian
Where
needs to
do
consider-
people like being stolen from?
If you're stealing from me to feed your starving child, I guess I have no choice, Flow State. I must allow
But
you to steal
again,
from me.
I mean, you don't, and I wouldn't care about it either way.
But again, East and West would be different. In the West, we would say, I don't like being stolen from, and in the East, they would say, well, if I didn't catch them, then I guess okay. That's what they would say.
John,
No, no, they fucking wouldn't.
Yes, they would. There's
That makes
documentaries
sense.
on this, dude. Watch it. This is what they say. They say, "Oh, well, I got caught out."
I
That was my
understand there are
fault."
cultural differences. I'm talking about a universal morality. The underlying principles that nobody likes being stolen from. We know because we know that nobody wants to be stolen from, right? No matter what you say about the culture and the particulars of it, nobody likes to be stolen from. It's always a violation of free will. Nobody ever likes that. Otherwise, they would not. It wouldn't be stealing.
Right, except their anger or their retribution is only directed at if I caught them. Now I get to direct retribution and anger, and I get to be upset.
You only
But if
get
they
to
didn't
direct
catch them,
retribution
they
and
would
anger if
say,
you catch
"Well,
them
that's on me.
regardless."
Now I'm not upset." That's what they would say.
No, people are still upset at being stolen from. You can't tell me that people are like, "Oh yeah, I got stolen from."
Well, you're telling me that from a Western perspective. This is an Eastern perspective.
Oh my god,
that you have to realize is very different than ours.
So can I just
Eastern's a little broad, by the way,
to both
and
of you?
it's time dependent.
Don't Christians
for
want to
Asian
accept
culture is
a
what I'm saying.
universal notion of morality, though? I'm a little bit confused at the argument you're making, John. Like, I agree that his argument does not work, but I have different reasons for that. But I don't see why we would reject a universal notion that's written on all of man's, we'll say heart, like Scripture, but the mind and the will at the very least, right? I don't see why we're rejecting that.
Flo, do you?
Okay,
Flo's gonna make an exit from the panel. Do you want any final thoughts before?
Bye
we go?
bye.
no, I'll skip it. Thank you. Thanks for having me up. Good talking
Just
to you
admit
guys.
I won the debate and then rage
Oh my
quit.
God. Good talking to
Good
everybody.
Are Flo, are you
terrible.
streaming? Are
Yeah,
you streaming?
I just flicked it on. I'm late to my own stream, but I did just flick it on.
All right, I'll do a redirect here shortly. Gentlemen, we'll probably finish up here in about 15, 20 minutes.
Good having you on Flow State.
Thanks, Flo.
Andy, to answer your question, no, I agree. Universally, stealing is still wrong, regardless of the morals of the people that are experiencing it.
Correct. Yeah. So my problem with his argument, I don't know if he was grasping it, is he wants an internally coherent system with universal principles. But the question is, where is he getting those universal principles? And he has to say from human nature, right? He has to say from the way our brain has developed. But if you say that, you immediately lose your universal principles, right? They're not
Right.
universal longer; they're biological. So,
And that's what I was trying to say was,
Right.
okay, well, if you're saying it's universal, then why are there differences between the East and the West?
right. Well, he would want to say currently he can't use the term universal is basically what he's saying. He's saying that currently
okay.
humans at this point in their evolutionary lineage have developed to this morality. It's a Nietzschean argument in some sense, right? We've killed God. Now what do we have to do? We have to become our own gods. We have to move beyond good and evil. And so he wants this internally coherent system that also has universal principles. But as I tried to point out with Kant, he's going to have to say, like on a deontological system, if I say I don't want to be stolen from, and then I can apply that universally, so I don't steal from anyone, so I can make that a universal rule. Where am I getting that universal rule? At least Kant says we're getting it from rationality, which is the underlying logos, the thing that underlies all human existence. So he doesn't have that argument in any sense.
Right. I 100% agree. That's why I was using this as an example to show him, hey, if you're claiming that it's universal, I am showing you that it is not, yet you're claiming it ought to be. Why ought it be that way? And now we get into exactly what you said. It ought to be that way because of this. That's exactly where I was trying to get to.
Yeah, and I see what you're doing there. I think I missed it at first because I was stuck on
Probably. I'm not very good.
I was stuck on his universal notion. I just don't see how he gets to universal. I think he's sneaking in the idea of the Imago Dei, like all humans are valuable due to the free will they have. Right. But that's just the Imago Dei.
If he would just watch that beginning opening statement from Andrew Wilson to Matt Dillahunty, it answers all of that, and it's just like 10 minutes long of Andrew saying all of this and then Matt Dillahunty running away right after. And like it answers literally everything he just asked.
Yeah. And I like what Phi said too. would you steal food to feed your family? I was going to ask the same thing, because in an internally coherent system without any outside universal principles coming in, you run into these moral contradictions, and you don't have, they are contradictions, right? You have no internal coherence at that point. But for a Christian, we can say, okay, we have two bad choices. We can let someone die, or we can steal. They're both wrong, but we can actually choose one without any problem there, because as I said, we are not relying on our internal principles there, which is, I don't know how he gets around that, but he doesn't.
He rage quits. But anyways, so he also is basing his ethics on desire, which is a huge flaw he doesn't realize, because he keeps wording things as nobody wants X, Y, or Z. And so human desire, if that's the formation of your morality, you're completely fucked, because humans desire some vile, detestable shit. And so he doesn't understand that, and he'll put it together later in life. But, again, it sounds, rosy at first, because like, oh, all people want nice things, but no, they don't, because I've met human beings and some of them want some very vile, disgusting things. And so if that's how you define morality, then we're all screwed. So unfortunately, he can't get past the objective subjective state that I keep pointing out to him, that if you can make exceptions to your rule, then it's not universal and it's not objective. It's just.
Are you saying that my desire for fatty is not allowed?
It's to help facilitate the morality.
You need help.
If we go back to reproduction and desire, so how did we go from being cavemen and cavewomen, going, oh, Jane, I like you, I want to hump you, from you have to go through all these like random nonverbal playing games, like people just play games with each other, and this morality police.
That's why you just club them over the head and drag them back to your cave.
So like, how did we get from cavemen and cavewomen to instituting marriage? And
that's how I got married. I just clubbed her over the head and drug her back to my cave. So
your work for me. Hey, does this class
here's the unpopular answer. That's only if you think that there's that long of a development in human nature, which is debatable.
I would agree. I don't think cavemen, cavewomen, that entire thing ever existed, and nor does science, by the way. If you look it up, there's no proof. There's no evidence for it. That never can be proven.
Just between you and me, Dawson, I think cavemen are more civilized than modern day people, so I wouldn't belittle them too much. But anyways.
Yeah, because if you look at the chat...
I do think,
and like all the left wing and all the woke people. I mean, I'd rather hang out with cavemen personally, but I don't know.
Well, it's just weird. It's like if I like a girl and a girl likes me, still there's still reasons why we can't not like each other, because of all these stupid rules that we have to go through and jump through social hoops and being judged by other people. So I find like one guy can have attraction for another girl. And again, we can go back to the reproduction thing, and then like that still wouldn't happen, because they have to find out how much money they make, or how much, or what status they have, and like there's all these different rules that have maybe some of them have probably been instituted by either the introduction of Christianity or other non-secular moral things that prevent people from populating with each other.
Well, for what it's worth, cavemen knew that boys have a penis and girls have a vagina, and modern day humans don't even understand this concept. So, again, I wouldn't belittle them too much, because they're pretty cool. But anyways, thanks for having me on, Sarah. It was fun. Let me know when there's some more resistance, and I'll try to reconjure my voice back for you. But just wanted to stop by and say hi. Thanks, Banel. It was fun.
Yeah,
catch you later.
Thanks, bye.
Yep, I think I'll be calling it too. It's just about nearly 1 a.m.
Yeah, same here.
2 a.m. crew.